Welcome back to the McCoy Leadership Podcast, elevating your impact through valuable insights and conversations about leadership. Welcome back to another episode of the McCoy Leadership Podcast. Today we have Liz Wolfe with us, which interestingly, her roots trace all the way back to a farm in the Pittsburgh area, and she'll be able to tell us more about that. And she started her business about 25 years ago, and through the past 25 years, she has discovered all kinds of things, probably most specifically how working hard, being focused, managing your time well, and getting to know the right people can only get you so far. So, Liz, I'll kick it over to you, and if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and give us some more of that background.
Well, absolutely. Well, again, my name is Liz Wolfe, and I grew up on a sheep farm. So now you'll get the joke that my last name was Wolfe, and I grew up on a sheep farm. And that was our slogan: Wolfe's the name, sheep's the game. And we, when I was about 5 years old, my mother, who was a housewife in Pittsburgh, living with my dad in Pittsburgh, who was a Westinghouse engineer, went to outside of Pittsburgh and bought a 148-acre farm. And this was supposed to be a beautiful place to raise 3 girls. And, my dad could commute to Westinghouse, and my mom could, do what she was going to do. Well, what she decided to do was to buy sheep, and really dove into the world of farming. And that was not what my father was expecting her to do. In fact, he just thought, I don't know what, again, we would have a couple sheep and a couple goats or a horse or 2. So selling products on our farm that were like things from the wool. We made sheepskin coats, we made sheepskin slippers, we spun wool, we went to different festivals, the Three Rivers Arts Festival, different places, farmers markets, and we sold bread and eggs, and we just did everything we could to make money. People would come down to the farm, we did tours, we were on the news, not all in the first 5 years, obviously, but over time, we built a vibrant and somewhat profitable cottage industry selling those things. So there I was at about, at that point, about 10 years old. And I was selling. This is how we survived. We sold things. So my mom would stick me in front of a spinning wheel in front of people and spin wool and talk to people. So selling, speaking in front of people, just being in business has been something that I've been doing since I was very young age.
Awesome. Now, being that you started that at such a young age, and I think I probably know the answer to this, but how much of an impact did needing to learn how to sell, speak to people in public at such a young age, how much has that impacted you, good or bad, into what you do today?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the bad, I would say mostly is I don't like to go to any kind of those craft fairs anymore because I don't like walking past people that have beautiful artisan items and wanting to buy it to support the artist and feeling like I don't need another porcelain bowl, So that's the bad part. I don't really enjoy going to craft shows anymore. Took me a long time to get over that. But the good news was that I didn't know I was supposed to be afraid to sell. I didn't know that I was supposed to be afraid to talk in front of people.
Yep.
I was, the truth be told, I'm actually also a musician. I like to perform. I'm a speaker, I'm a professional speaker. So I like to be in front of people. I like to perform. I don't know if I would say I'm extroverted, but I certainly am very comfortable in that performance type of an environment. So that's the good part of it. I would say the middle part, good and bad, is I didn't really understand. We didn't say the word entrepreneur. Nobody was going around saying, I'm an entrepreneur. Dolores Wolfe is an entrepreneur. Like we didn't talk about it that way. We talked about how do we make the most money with the best resources that we have.
Yep.
So I thought, like anyone, I was going to go to college. I was going to get a job. And I went to college and I got a job, and I was like, wait, I have to talk to you? I have to tell you when I'm going to get off of for work to do something? I have to ask for vacation. We didn't really think of it in that, well, I'm a small business owner, so I work for myself kind of a thing. So I had a spate of different employment experiences in and out of college before I decided, okay, I don't like this employment thing. I really want to be on my own. And actually, the first business that I had was a little shop that I opened in South Norwalk, Connecticut, because I went to college in Connecticut. And it was a little shop selling the items, the products from the farm, because by then we had really expanded. We had quilts, we had sheepskin items, we were weaving things, we were doing things. And you know how people say you're going to learn in the first 5 years out of college, it's not what you earn, it's what you learn.
Yep.
So what I learned was I was not interested in selling more sheepskin items in a shop. It wasn't the right thing. I didn't really know, because again, I didn't understand what it meant to be an entrepreneur. I just knew what it meant to work hard. And this is what I was saying, you said earlier, is that no matter how hard we worked, we still had challenges. Money was not abundant. So I was learning that working hard and was not actually going to be my ticket to success, unlike what we're basically told by the gurus. So
this was not a question I was prepared to ask, but it kind of just hit me. And I think there's a lot of people out there that would be interested. What are your thoughts? And I know myself, I started very, very young, working around agriculture and for an auctioneer. And so I attribute a lot of the things that I have today, I mean, as far as the skills and the things that I have learned from those early experiences. And today, children, as they're going through school, are being taught, all kinds of different things than what we were taught maybe when we were in school. So that experience is different. What about a business owner or entrepreneur? Should they be exposing their children and taking their children kind of on that ride with them so that they can experience it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, ironically, I moved to New York City, so the farthest away I could get from any kind of farming life is New York City. And I raised both of my children here in New York City. I'm in business with my husband, actually. So they have only experienced the two of us working and being in business and being an entrepreneur and having our own business. They've never seen, mommy go off to work kind of thing.
Yep.
Obviously, I went to work. I just was doing it either in a consulting role or something along those lines. I'm fascinated because neither one of my children seem particularly interested in entrepreneurship. And Well, my son graduated from college now. And so he's actually he moved away, but came back so that he could start a job in a school here. So he's leaning towards the teacher route. And my daughter's still in college. So that's still to be known what's going to happen there. But I'm also, I'm always like, well, get out there and hustle it. And you could sell something. My daughter has clothes, let's say that, you can sell them online now. And they've never really felt that desire to make that hustle, make that money. I don't know. We're going to see about that.
Interesting. My daughter's 11 and she has seen me do both work and then, work for myself and doing both of those at the same time, I guess, for some period of time. Interestingly, now she's only 11, but she is really bent on going to school and becoming a veterinarian. And it interests me because she's thinking more so working for somebody else, not working for herself, which is interesting. So I was just curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah. And I'll add something to that too, which is that this is the culture that we have is go to school, get a job.
Yep.
That is That's the culture. And the interesting thing is a lot of entrepreneurs, or a lot of people, let me start with that word, a lot of people that come to me. So mostly I work with people who want to start a business or are relatively new and are, again, feeling stuck because they're trying it and it's not quite working very well for them. So there's this idea that there's this entrepreneurial personality, that you have to be a hustler and you work hard and go out there and make those connections and really, be an expert and those things. And that's what I will mention now, that I actually have a quiz on my site that helps you figure out what type of an entrepreneur you are, because not all entrepreneurs are people that are going to run out there and be hustlers, right? You might be more of the relationship focused kind. You might be more of the analytical style. You might be more of the promotory style. You might be more of the control style. I don't know if that's not that complimentary of a term. And so I think that we should be careful about thinking that there is some particular type of personality that's more towards being an entrepreneur. A lot of people will get through school and get into jobs and then say, I always wanted to have my own business, or I always wanted to, I don't like this. I'd like to have more time freedom, more money freedom. And so that's when they start to ask these questions. Should I start a business? So I think there's a lot that can be learned from getting jobs and working. So for instance, your daughter being a veterinarian, she's going to go to veterinary school, we hope, and she's going to get out of it, but they're not going to talk to her about how to run a veterinarian practice.
Nope.
Unless things have changed in the veterinarian school that I'm familiar with. They're not going to talk about that. So they're going to talk about how to save dogs and cats and horses and those lives, which is very important. So there's a lot of ways in which our community, our society does not encourage entrepreneurship, and that's where the fears start to come up. And she might want to do that, but feel unprepared as to how to do that when she gets to that point.
Yep. I think just as a side note, I think all of the careers that we get prepared for in college, whether that be, a teacher, they teach you how to teach, but not how to manage students, there are so many pieces. And so I think that's where people like you and I as coaches, that's what we're doing, is we're filling in those gaps many times. But you mentioned there feeling stuck, and that's one of the things I know you've said that you hear over and over again from business owners, specifically business owners just getting started. So those people that kind of are coming to you and saying, hey, I'm stuck, what are some of the most common reasons people feel stuck in their business or in leadership?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to write a note here. So here's some of the reasons. One of the reasons is they don't know what to do. They say, I'm just getting started. They're just completely overwhelming. There's so many options. Should I be on social media? Should I be writing a blog? Should I do a podcast? Should I go to networking events? Should I buy a logo? It's just overwhelming. Get a website. Goes on and on and on and on. I don't even know how to talk about myself. By the way, I need a product. How do I sell it? What do I price it at? Where do I go to sell it? All of that stuff. So we don't know what to do. And so we feel completely scattered, stuck, overwhelmed. It's crazy time. So, and then what happens is human beings say, well, I'm probably better off not doing anything at all.
Yep.
Never do we ever say, well, I don't know, let me pick one and just start there. We don't say that because we're so concerned about which one is the right thing to get started with that we get overwhelmed by that. So we don't do anything. Another big reason that people get stuck is your mindset. So the system that I have to my coaching system is, number one, have a clear vision. That is another place people get stuck. They don't know what to do because they don't know what they're trying to work towards. So if you have a clear vision, you start there, then we need a plan. We need purposeful action. And that's where, through the calls that I do with people, we come up with a plan. No, don't worry about a logo right now. Let's talk about your products first. You can sell without a logo, by the way. We all know that. But the third piece is about mindset, which is what I was referring to a moment ago, which is fears, doubts, reasons, all the reasons you ever could think of, and you can think of many reasons that you can't do it and that it's not going to work. That is the biggest reason that people stop, because they're pretty sure that it's not going to work even if they put into it. And then on top of that, nobody wants to put in a lot of effort only to have it fail. And then there's the folks that have tried it before. They've done it once or twice or 3 or 20 times, and it still isn't working. And so then they say, well, it's not going to work this time. So you don't have a vision, if you don't have a plan, and you don't have your mindset straight, you are going to feel stuck.
Absolutely. I mean, even myself, when I started my consulting business, I had a plan. My plan was, I'm going to help everybody do anything. And, well, I can do it all. I can do this, I can do this. And it kind of hit me. And as we have gotten into this each year, I've had to change my goal a little bit, and start to think about how much business do I want in consulting? How much business do I want in coaching? How much, business do I want in speaking? But I think it's fascinating. You also said the fear piece of that, your mindset and the fear, and it's terrible. I can't think of whose quote it is, but the quote is, the reality is that we shouldn't fear failure. We should fear success of something that doesn't matter, and I think that is a pretty neat quote. And if you take that to heart, we got to sometimes get out and do something. And to your point, human nature, you just want to stop and say, I've had enough. I don't want to do this. But I think it's fascinating to me, your 3-part coaching system, it's really hitting those main pieces of that leading up to the fear. If you have a good vision, then the fear kind of starts to go away, because where you're headed with that. And then getting the mindset right is obviously a big piece of it. So earlier you had said, or actually I think I said it in the introduction, but the standard advice, if your new business isn't working, you're not working hard enough, you're not focused enough, you're not managing your time well enough, all of those kind of standard advices that we get. What are your thoughts to the people that think, I just got to work longer? Because we've all seen it. And when you start a new business, I get it. You got to work 50, 60 hours a week sometimes. But 80, 90, 100 hours in a week, that's ridiculous. So what are your thoughts to, kind of how do you overlay your 3-part coaching system to dispel that, or to keep people from falling into, I just need to work longer, I just need to pull an all-nighter, whatever it is? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I will tell you, I love working and I love what I do. And you'll often see me working at 10 o'clock at night, making sure I've confirmed everything for the next day. And growing up on a farm, listen, you want to talk about hard work, go bale some hay. Okay. Go bale some hay, pick up the hay, do that all day, put it in the barn, the loft. That's quote unquote hard work. I'm never afraid of hard work. But what I saw was that it's not necessarily a 100% correlation between, I look how hard I worked and therefore how much money I made. You can work really hard at not something that's productive. And then there are a couple other things where, for instance, many people feel like they can't charge more because they just started. So they're not an established expert. Or they also feel maybe they're an introvert and they don't really want to go and talk to people. They don't like sales, or they don't like they don't like social media and those types of things. So all of those things, I look at those like they're tools in your entrepreneurial toolbox. you're gonna work hard, you're gonna have connections, you're gonna be a respected expert if you focus on those things. That's great. However, they're also somewhat out of your realm of control, meaning maybe you go to a networking event, but you don't meet anybody there. So what I want to do is I want to bring what you're doing and working on into the realm of your control, and always give you something that no matter what, when you feel stuck, you can do and you can apply. And so the abundance principles upon which my coaching is built are these three things: ask powerfully, give wholeheartedly, and receive graciously. So the asking powerfully part is what all entrepreneurs should be taking on immediately. And that is, you're not asking enough. I promise you, you're not asking enough, right? You're not asking for the sale when you're on the phone with people. You're not asking for referrals. You're not asking for more money. You're not asking for help. There's many ways if you look around. Now, I have an entire, well, as a matter of fact, I have a book and I have an entire 3-day workshop that I do based on these three principles. And I can tell you that we have a lot of background, historical, I don't know, Michigana, I don't know, that's the wrong word, about why it's bad to ask. It's going to show that you're weak. It's going to show that you should be able to do it yourself. There's, you're not supposed to ask people for money, like all these things. I can't get into that in this interview, but I will tell you that if you practice asking and just do that, you're going to start. It's like a spark plug, right? It's going to just get that spark going to get things happening. Now, the second part is about giving wholeheartedly. And the reason I have asking first, because you've got to ask for what you want. That's also part of your vision, by the way, asking for what you want. The second part is not receiving, it's giving. So what we want to do is, again, we want to start that energetic exchange. And by giving, so let's say you're asking for referrals. At the same time you're asking for referrals, you're giving referrals. At the same time you're asking for money, you're giving money. At the same time you're asking for help, you're giving help. So these are the ways that you're keeping that energy going. And then the third part is 100% in your control, but we're really bad at, is about receiving graciously. And receiving is where when someone offers to help, you say, yes, thank you. Or receiving is when somebody offers to give you money. You give them a ride and they say, well, can I give you money for gas? You say, yes, you can give me money for gas. It seems like a small thing. We have to practice saying yes and practice receiving. We are not good at receiving. I'm just going to say that's a blanket statement. Everybody says, I would love to have so much money. I would love to have it. We just came off of the Christmas/Hanukkah Kwanzaa season where gifts are exchanged. Just think about how well you received gifts.
Yep.
And probably, people came to your house maybe for a holiday. They brought you a bottle of wine. Oh, you didn't have to do that, right? There's so many ways that we push abundance away from ourselves because we are receiving, but we're receiving conditionally. And I'm saying to receive graciously, meaning saying yes. So those three things, asking, giving, and receiving, are all in the realm of your control and are all things that you can do in order to initiate the flow of abundance in your business.
Is there any one of them that is more important than the other or more important to start with?
So I wouldn't say any are more important than the other, but I will say that asking is the most immediate way that you'll see results, is you will start asking more and just notice when you don't ask. I have so many examples of ways and times where I've just said, hey, well, what if we did it this way? Or, hey, even changing a time that they're supposed to be talking with you. We'll go through hoops not to inconvenience the other person, or we'll be like, oh, I just set up that appointment with them, and now I just found out that my daughter's, veterinarian presentation is happening. I don't want to say I don't want to go back to that person and ask. It's all those ways that if you can focus on asking, and asking bigger, asking powerfully, asking very specifically, that you will see the most impactful way to get things flowing for you.
It's interesting that you used that example, because this interview was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly. But the day of the interview, I had some things come up that I did everything I could to try to jump through as many hoops as I could so that I could get here, because I didn't want to tell you, no, we need to reschedule. And the funny thing is, I realized at that moment when I just said, I have to reschedule. There's no possible way I can get there. And I was even thinking of going and buying, some mobile equipment so that I could do it while I was on the go. And I was like, this is crazy. But to your point, that's what I was doing. Was I was trying, rather than just asking and saying, look, this came up, my travel, got messed up, and I can't get to my office. Can we reschedule? And you said, yeah, absolutely. And you rescheduled within the day.
Yeah.
But I was afraid, or I don't know if I was afraid to ask. I just felt that I didn't want to ask.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It's that's not our first thing. We assume problems, or I think it's a lot about, we don't want to inconvenience the other person. Right? You probably were like, oh, she already set in her schedule, and to have her go and do it another time, and she's gonna have to find a time. And I will tell you, that's a great example, because I went, oh, okay, yeah, okay, let me just go reschedule it now, because I wanted to do the interview. I mean, you do risk a little bit, like the person may never come back again, but we don't want to work with people who aren't flexible. We want to work with people who want to be there and want to do it.
Yep.
And yeah, think about that. You're like ready to go spend money.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the one thing we didn't talk about, clear vision, purposeful action, but you also talk about hidden barriers. Mm-hmm. What are these hidden landmines or hidden barriers?
Yeah. Well, those are definitely the mindset issues that will come up that we're not aware of. And so we're talking about asking as a good example. When we take the time to reflect on why it's so uncomfortable for us to ask for something, why it's so uncomfortable to just receive money from somebody when they say, can I give you more money? There always are historical beliefs and ideas that we aren't aware of because they're hidden. And a lot of it comes from historical training. Some of these things are actually things that our people of authority in our world have taught us. A really interesting example that during one of my 3-day trainings that I did about abundance, one of the clients that was in this workshop said that when she was a little girl and she would go to her aunt's house, and her aunt always had candy on the table. People had candy dishes back in the day.
Yep.
They don't really do candy dishes too much. They had candy dishes. And she was not allowed to ask for the candy. She wasn't allowed to ask for it. So what she would do, she was like 6, right? Or 7. So what she would do is, while they were sitting around the coffee table and having a conversation, she would look at her aunt, and then she would look at at the candy dish. And then she would look at her aunt, and she would look at the candy dish too. So what is she learning from that, right? I have to be clandestine in my asking. I can't ask directly for something. I'm going to get in trouble. And so years later, as an adult, you're not thinking about, well, why do I think it's rude to ask? When I go to somebody's house and they offer me something, or if I just say, may I have some water? Like, we feel like we're not allowed to ask for that. And so these are when I call, I mean, it takes a lot to uncover them. I will say this, the best way to uncover them is to get into action. The very thing that stresses you out the most, like, remember this? You used to pick up a phone and make a telephone call. Remember telephones? We still have them in our office. So picking up a phone and calling somebody because you're afraid of rejection or you're afraid to ask. And it's just, again, that's just the one part of it. And in the example is when you feel that fear and stress come up, getting into action is the best way to confront those and work through them. I always like to say that being an entrepreneur is the best personal development workshop you're ever going to do. Tony Robbins ain't got nothing on us. We're out there every day challenging those historical beliefs.
So, interesting point. Is it possible to grow your business without growing yourself? If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, can you grow your business without growing as an individual?
Wow, I've never had that question before, or pondered that before. I'm going to say no. I think that if you're growing your business, you're growing yourself. I will say that you did that very interesting thing that you said a bit ago about being a success is something you don't care about. What was that again?
So actually, I looked that up quickly. It was Dwight L. Moody, D.L. Moody. He said, our greatest fear should not be of failure, but of succeeding at something that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So I guess it would be possible to grow a business that you don't really care about. I do talk to people that say, I had a client who was a massage therapist, and he was kind of done with it. But there's a little bit of a trap where, but I got a lot of clients and they give me a lot of money, and I'm not, the fear comes in when you get to the next thing that you want to do. So I suppose I also have a woman that's a real estate selling, house flipper person. Doesn't particularly inspire her. So right now we've just agreed that she's going to focus on the money part of it. And I'm just going to keep encouraging her to think about other things that she could be doing that she does want to do. So there's the growth there. But other than that, I think the answer is no. You have to grow as a person in some way.
And I would believe those that maybe can grow a little bit without growing as an individual, it's not going to be sustained or long lasting, because if you're not growing as an individual within your business, it's going to be very hard to sustain that growth. So what is one piece of advice you wish you would have given yourself when you were young and you were starting out on that farm?
One thing I would have said to myself at that time is, money is like a dog. It needs a lot of attention. And we treat our money, we usually will treat it one of three ways. We treat it like a house plant, water it every once in a while. We check on it every once in a while. Hope it's not dead yet. I have this gorgeous Christmas cactus every Christmas. I've had it for at least 10 years. Every Christmas comes out. I don't do much in the meantime. I make sure I water it once a week, and it hasn't died yet. Okay, but that's not good enough. Then you might be treating your money like a cat, right? A cat, you can go away. My sister went away for the weekend. We all met in Pittsburgh, and she just left a big, cat can go in and out, and she left a big bowl of cat food, right? But you got to take care of the cat. You do have to feed the cat. Dogs require a lot more attention. They require getting walked. They require getting fed more frequently, more deliberate times, petting, all those things. So treating your money like a dog means paying attention to it all the time. How well are you paying attention? A lot of entrepreneurs are really treating their money like houseplants, and that's not a good approach to business finance.
When you put it that way, I would agree. I think it's very easy when you're starting a business. And I have several clients that this is a discussion that we've had, that they're not watching. They know their business takes a certain amount of expense, and they know that they're going to have a certain amount of income, but they're not really watching it. They're not paying attention to know what those expenses are, or are their savings, or their and that's a pet peeve of mine. There's no point that you're too early in the beginning of a business to start paying attention to your finances and actually starting, even having a conversation in month one. What can I do to cut my cost? Because it's part of business. So
Yeah.
as we draw to a close here, we have two questions that we ask every one of our guests. And the first one is, what is your go-to management or leadership book that you have read over and over again? What is your go-to management book?
Well, I'm going to tell you the book that I go to over and over again, and I'm doubtful you're going to think it's a leadership or management book. I'm going to share anyway because it's my top book recommendation, and that is the book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay.
Elizabeth Gilbert's the woman that wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Okay.
And Big Magic is a book about creativity and ideas. And I love it because entrepreneurs, for the most part, have a lot of ideas and energy and different things. When I talk to my new clients or even prospective clients, when I'm talking to them, and they'll say, well, I have these ideas, and I go, okay, I bet you have more, right? Well, I was also thinking about this. Everybody has all these ideas. And I love her perspective on how to be with your ideas. And I find it, I've read it multiple times. I've listened to it. I've read it. And she actually has a TED Talk on the topic. So it's just an interesting read. And then it's that. Now, I also have a lot of business books that I have had some good experience with. One of my most recent interesting one is 10,000 Weeks. And it's good. Have you heard about that one yet?
I have not.
It's called 10,000 Weeks. That's the average of how long people live.
Okay.
10,000 weeks. And it's got a whole different perspective on, I'm going to use the words time management. By the way, we're not really managing time. We're really managing our energy, but it's a book about time. And so those would be my two most impactful books that I love to recommend.
Great. And
I'll give you two.
Our last question is, what is your favorite piece of technology today?
Yes, it's the same piece of technology that I've been using since when I started my business with my husband. After I closed the sheepskin store, moved to New York City, got a couple jobs, was like, what's this? What we did is we started selling and implementing CRM, customer relationship management software. And the one that we use is Maximizer. We don't just use it, we sell it. When I say we, I don't do that personally anymore. My husband still does that. We've been doing that for 25 years, actually a little bit more now. And see, customer relationship management software. People think they can remember stuff in their head. You cannot remember stuff in your head. You need a good, solid customer relationship management software, and you need to put your information in. I can go back to 1996 and tell you exactly who I talked to on that day and what I talked to them about. And I can save all my emails to it. I can say it's way more organized. I can slice and dice my list. I can send out campaign emails to them. And so it's, drip campaigns, does the whole thing. So that's my favorite piece of technology.
Well, awesome. And we will have links. If you shoot us a link, we'll put a link to the website for that. And as well, you mentioned your book and the quiz that you have for folks to take. And so we'll have in the show notes some links to those items as well. On top of that, where can our listeners find out a little bit more about you and get in contact with you?
LizWolfeCoaching.com. So that's Wolf with an E. Remember, Wolf's the name, sheep's the game. And you can find me there. The quiz will pop up for you to take the quiz. I have a book recommendation list on there, so you can see where all my books are and the link to the books, a couple of books that I've written. And that's your best place to go to. All the videos, all the blogs, all the other previous podcasts are all on my website, lizwolfcoaching.com.
Well, wonderful. Liz, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm kind of happy that we had to postpone it, because that just made for a great example and made me realize how crazy I might be. But thank you again for joining us. Hopefully maybe we can have you back on for another episode in the future.
Absolutely. I would love it.
And for our listeners, don't forget to check out our website and our social media. And we will have, by the time this podcast airs, we should have a couple of upcoming classes on the schedule. So don't forget to check those out. Until next time, we thank you.